Good news can often get overlooked or buried by the negative in our everyday lives. So let's change that. I'm Adrianna.
And I'm Wyatt.
We're just two ordinary people without any special qualifications or anything trying to navigate life. We invite you to join us as we share wholesome stories, news articles of hope, and ideas about how we can all make the world just a little bit brighter. We are uplifting positive stories. Welcome back to another episode of Uplifting Positive Stories. I am stoked for today's episode because we're going to do things a little differently today, and Wyatt actually found our Reddit stories for today. So Wyatt, tell us a little bit about the topic we have for today.
Yeah, so I'm excited too because this is actually episode 20 of the podcast now. We're at 20 now. And you've been really busy lately with editing. We're knee deep in wedding season right now, and so you're editing many projects right now. So I thought I'd step up and help find some Reddit stories to take just a little bit off of your plate.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to see what you found.
Yeah, so the theme for this episode is basically about the three pillars of any relationship. Communication, communication, and communication. So all these stories relate to the importance of communication, which sometimes can be as simple as, hey, just communicate. And other times it gets a little more nuanced. It's a little more nuanced, a little more complicated. Like there's ways to communicate. It gets at the core of it, it's communication, but there's a lot more going on. So I have a few stories here. They kind of range from more fun and silly kind of communication, like, okay, you're just being silly, like outside looking in, to like, okay, this is a serious, like heavy topic, but they all are positive. I swear. There's one in particular we'll get to that might seem a little heavy for a bit, but all of these stories come from best of positive updates. So
we know they end positively.
Allegedly, yeah. And I've read through them. They do end positively.
Nice. Well, I'm going in blind. I haven't read any of these,
No, you haven't.
Or I don't even know really what their titles are. So I'm excited to hear about all these stories.
All right. So my first story here, and this was originally posted on a relationship advice titled, "The girl, 18 female, I liked kissed me, 19 male. When I dropped her off, what do I do?" This was originally posted June of this year.
Okay.
"We met at work and became friends fast. Now we spend a ton of time together. We started playing video games together, so if we're not working together, we're on the mic together. I took her to get Pocky and Boba after work. She touched my hand when she laughed and I almost died. When I dropped her off at her place, she just leaned over and kissed me, thanked me, said she would be waiting for me on the game we play. Then we got out of the car. Not gonna lie, that was my first kiss, and I am a super virgin. My mind is reeling, and I don't know what to do. I kind of want to ask if she's my girlfriend, but that seems crazy. I don't want to ask her and make her think I'm clueless, parentheses, I am, and she laughs or never talks to me again. Also, if the kiss was bad and she wants to pretend it never happened, and I don't want to humiliate myself. I don't even know if that was a date or not. Maybe I just move on and see what happens next, but I'd really like to try to make a move if she's into me. I really don't know." So that's the original post.
That's really funny. Well, clearly there may have been signs prior to her just kissing him that he might have just completely missed and didn't notice. Sometimes I feel like when you're getting early into the dating scene, there are obvious signs that most people know are signs that just kind of go over your head, I feel like. And so she might think that she's been perfectly clear this entire time, and clearly this was not the case. I do think it's really important that OP start that conversation, even if it is kind of embarrassing to admit, like, I didn't know that you liked me. I thought we were just hanging out. I like you. I just didn't know you liked me. So are we dating then? Just kind of to broach that topic. In my opinion, that's how I would handle it. I know it's kind of an embarrassing position to be in, of admitting that you might have missed out on the signs that were there and that she may have thought they were dating this entire time. Or maybe she didn't and she knows maybe he's shy or something and was like, I'm just going to make a move and see how he responds to that. You never know. That could be it too. Without the proper context, it's always hard to know. But if I were OP, that's how I would probably handle the situation, is just kind of laugh about it. Be like, I guess I maybe missed out on signs. I like you. Do you like me? And then go from there. And then they can discuss are they going on dates? And maybe then he can actually approach it like a proper date and actually dress up the way he would if he knew he was taking her on a date. Just, yeah, approach it like he knows that they're dating versus being surprised.
I feel personally attacked a little bit by this story because I can relate to it in many ways. Is any of this reminding you of anything from the early phases of our relationship? As I was new to the dating scene at the time, and we were walking on our first date, and we were going for a walk outside, and you reached to grab my hand, and I almost jumped in reaction to it.
Surprised.
Yeah, I was not smooth back then, so I can relate.
And a lot of times I feel like when you're younger like that, it's pretty normal to have stuff like that happen. And at least speaking from my perspective, I think it's cute. And it's like, oh, no, they weren't expecting it, like they weren't expecting me to kiss them or whatever. Like she was there, as long as it's a positive reaction. If it was bad, then obviously no. Mm-hmm. But in that situation, it looks like he might have just been like a little surprised and shocked. So it's kind of a cute situation in my opinion. I don't think she would find it weird or bad if he were to then be like, oh, I didn't know you liked me kind of thing. I think she would probably find it cute, but I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. You never know.
Update.
All right.
So it was 2 days later. Hi, everyone. Thank you to everyone who responded. I really appreciated all the advice and reassurance. I was fully panicking and didn't know what to do. I got a bit overwhelmed with comments and did not respond to all of them, but trust me when I say I read and appreciated every single one. I also want to add that I know my post wasn't very popular, but I was not sure how else to update, so I'm making a new one. I'm a bit jittery right now, and I'm probably going to include too much detail, but I'm just very, very happy.
Aww.
So, we went out on a date. The day after I made the post, I dropped her off at home after work. I asked if she wanted to go to the mall with me this weekend. She laughed and said, okay. Then I actually kissed her this time, which was awesome.
Oh.
I was very, very nervous the whole time. The mall was fun. I chose it because it's casual and there's a lot of stuff we both like there. We got drinks and she asked for a sip of mine and drank straight from my straw, which did something to me. She hugged me a lot. She let me kiss her a bunch. We held hands. I put my hand on her back. I even played with her hair. It was really, really nice. All in all, we just looked at cool stuff and hung out together, which was all I wanted anyway. We went to dinner at a noodle place. She fed me something she wanted me to try. I don't even remember what it tasted like because I was too busy panicking because she was feeding me. She also stole a dumpling off my plate, which was really, really cute. I didn't even care that I lost a dumpling. I went in her house for a while and she mostly just showed me her anime figures and PC setup, but it was still surreal the whole time. I told her she was pretty and smelled good and she laughed and told me I was handsome and smelled good, which made me almost turn into soup. I think we technically made out on her bed for like 15 seconds. I told her she was my first kiss and she laughed and called me cute. I almost turned to dust. When I left, she told me to message her when I get home so that she knows I'm safe. And again, I nearly died right then and there. That was really it. I'm home now and my heart is still practically pounding. I almost asked her if she was my girlfriend again, but I learned from the comments that this is a terrible idea and I'm going to wait a few weeks and a few more really great dates to ask her to be my girlfriend. We've been messaging practically constantly since I got home. I'm sorry the update was boring and rambling and stupid. I'm just really, really happy. I don't know if it was boring.
I don't think that was boring. That's super sweet. I'm sure most of the comments were like, this is super wholesome. Mm-hmm. That's adorable. And it's awesome that it worked out. I'm happy to see that OP actually had a happy ending, it sounds like, from what we know. Mm-hmm. And that they're seeing each other now. That's so awesome. I do agree with the comments, though, to hold off before putting a label on it.
Like, have a real date.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't a real date before.
Well, this update was a real date.
Yes, this one was.
But give it a few weeks to kind of get used to dating, be a little less nervous.
I mean, we had that conversation after a few days, so
yeah,
I mean, can we really give that advice?
Right, and some people would be totally cool with it to put a label on it. Like I said, every person is very different. But in general, I think it's smart to wait a little bit just to make sure that you're both feeling comfortable with putting a label on it. But I think this is a good situation. It's super, super wholesome.
Update.
Another one?
Mm-hmm. So now, a few weeks later. Hi, everyone. This is probably really dumb, but I wanted to make one last update from my post. I really wanted to express gratitude and appreciation for everyone that responded and tried to help me. The internet isn't always a nice place, but you guys were nicer to me than almost anyone in my life, and I'm very, very thankful. The last few weeks have been amazing. We've been going on dates and doing nothing, which I never knew could be so fun. I'm surprised that I never run out of things to talk about with her. We've been friends for well over a year, and I think it would have stopped by now, but it's like we never shut up or stopped laughing. She has told me she was waiting for me to make a move for forever. She admitted she had been dropping hints for months, and I'm
there we go.
And I'm painfully oblivious. Join the club, pal. That's why she finally just kissed me. Something that I never understood was feeling so protective over a person. She works at the customer service desk and I'm pretty much a box boy. So sometimes while I'm in the back building box forts, she's getting yelled at and it makes me really upset. I don't like seeing people treat her poorly. With that being said, she is tough. She says it's her Latin blood, but I think she's just special. An unforeseen benefit of this is my self-esteem has improved tremendously. She's very, very pretty in every aspect. I never would have imagined someone like her would be into me. She's helping me realize that I'm not still the tall, scrawny Asian kid in a Pokemon t-shirt with glasses and acne. Now I'm a tall, somewhat muscular Asian man in a Pokemon t-shirt with contacts and a skincare routine. That's a joke, mostly. In reality, I guess I didn't realize I was likable in any way, shape, or form, and being liked by someone so absolutely amazing has been incredible. Though it might be too much information, I am no longer a super virgin. With that being said, sex is nice, but I'm just happy I get to spend time with her. I didn't realize how happy the little things like hand-holding and kissing would make me. Just looking at her sometimes makes me melt. Finally, I asked her to be my girlfriend. She said yes. Smiley face.
Oh, well, there we go. So she was dropping hints. She was waiting for him to make the first move. And that, sometimes making the first move and taking that risk can pay off. Not always, but sometimes it can. Sometimes just by going for it and seeing what happens. And so I'm glad she did, because clearly he didn't think she would like him for some reason in that way. And so by her taking that step and that risk, now they have something really awesome out of it. So that's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. And again, I feel like many people can relate to the increase of self-esteem when you're in a new relationship like this. I was kind of late to the dating game for whatever reason. I didn't really date in high school at all. You were my first real relationship. And that hurt my self-esteem for a long time. I felt like I was not desirable at all. And so I can totally relate to suddenly just feeling, whoa, I am desirable, you know? And I feel like that's something that most people can relate to at some point in their lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's when they were younger or when they're a little bit older. And it dips in values too. I'm sure there'll be a point where he starts to feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not actually worthy of her. That comes and goes as long as you just keep communicating, And and I just feel like it speaks to the importance of communication, because if they never communicate any of this, they would just keep being friends and never expressing any of their feelings, and then it would maybe just never happen, you gotta.
Right.
I mean, it was her that initiated, but one of them's got to take the initiative, and then the other has to respond to it, because he also could just curl them into a shell and just let fear prevent him from being able to pursue something that turned out to be amazing, at least so far. I mean, it's still pretty early in the relationship, but regardless, that sounds like it's a pretty amazing thing, especially if it's all new experiences for him. Right.
And on the flip side of it too, had it not worked out, had she taken that risk and kissed him, and maybe he didn't feel that way towards her, it's still recoverable. I feel like people think that could be the end of the world. Friendship ended, super embarrassing, can never talk to that person again. And if you're friends with that person and you're able to communicate with each other, you can bounce back from that. It might be awkward for a little bit, but at the end of the day, I know so many people that has happened with, where someone had feelings for their friend and expressed that in some way and was turned down, and they communicated and they got through it. Like I said, it might be awkward for a little bit. It might be a little embarrassing. But at the end of the day, if you truly are good friends and you guys can communicate with each other and be able to talk through it and respond in a positive way to it, it can still work out. So taking that risk sometimes and if you're able to communicate, can totally work out.
Some comments. This is making me think that we should have done the story last. A lot of comments are like this. And on this completely adorable note, that's enough for Reddit for the day. Yep, not gonna get any better than this. Great note to end the day on. I'm so happy for that, dude. There's a lot of comments that are saying how happy they are for him and stuff. And
that's awesome. It's cool to see strangers on the internet pooling together to give this person advice, which is awesome. And then also to just be kind of like a, yeah, woohoo, from the sidelines at hearing the updates and stuff. And that's really awesome. Cheering him on in a way.
A lot of this was an adorable, super happy read. Our OMG, my heart, I'm closing the app on a super romantic high.
Oh, that's cute.
But not us. We're going to keep going.
We're going to keep on rolling.
Now on to another story. It's a little bit of a tonal shift. So now we've gone from a brand new relationship to they're in the midst of a relationship. The title doesn't sound positive, but again, this comes from Best of Positive Updates.
All right.
The original post is from Relationships.
Gotcha.
And it got reposted to Best of Positive Updates.
Okay.
I, 28, hate My boyfriend's 28 male beard. Throwaway because boyfriend is on Reddit. We've been together for 10 years and I love him a lot. I'm sure we're going to marry someday and have kids together. He always had a bit of a beard, which I loved. I always found him very attractive. However, about 6 months ago, he started to grow out his beard. Some people call it a hipster beard. The difference is that my boyfriend doesn't groom his beard at all, and it looks a mess. Whenever he eats, small pieces of food stick to his beard. Whenever it's hot outside, small droplets of sweat linger in his beard. Whenever we have sex, I feel his beard rubbing on me and it feels weird. And afterwards, I have beard hair all over me. I just hate it. I've tried talking to him about at least grooming his beard, parentheses, I'm not even talking about cutting it off because apparently he loves it so much. I bought some grooming accessories for him, scissors, small comb, but he doesn't use it. I have told him about this fancy hipster barbershop, but he just laughed and said, real men don't need that. He also keeps insisting that I'm gonna learn to love his beard someday, but it just gets more and more disgusting. I've asked his friends and family what they think about the beard, but they all agree that the beard is great. I can't be the only one noticing the food getting cut up in his beard. Ugh, what do I do? I feel like I find him less and less attractive. I'm even starting to avoid having sex with him, and it freaks me out. Please help.
Well, going off that post, I don't know if OP has told him this in this way, but one way of going about it is less of a, you should do this, you should do that, it's gross, and maybe come at it more from a, it makes me feel like blank, or it makes me not want to blank. And this is something I actually heard from another podcast, which was Taking Sides with the Dashleys. That's another really fun podcast if anyone's looking for a fun podcast to listen to. But they talk about how they went to a marriage therapist for a while, a marriage counselor. And that was something that they talked about a lot, was told to them, was to try to rephrase things of less of a, you should do this, or I don't like this about you, and more of a, it makes me feel like this, or it makes me not want to do this, because then it gives that person insight into why you're saying these things and maybe gives them more motivation to change it. Because if it's making OP lose attraction to him, then that might be something that might change his mind of thinking, okay, OP doesn't want to be around that or doesn't want to see that, and it's making them question if they can be with me. It's more than just, I don't like it. It's actually affecting them and the relationship. Now, that being said, OP can't force him to do that. It's his body, his choice. If he really wants a beard and he likes it like that, they can't force that. But as long as OP can also explain it's not just that I don't like it aesthetically, but here are the reasons why it's affecting me, I think that could open up that communication a little more than it already is. It's good that OP did tell him that OP doesn't like it, but I think that there's more that can be communicated rather than just on Reddit. Because it's not that OP is like you can't have a beard in general, it's just that OP wants it more groomed, and that's fair. So I think it can maybe come to more of a compromise if it were more addressed in that way rather than just say, I don't like it, or you should go here and get it groomed.
To communicate properly, you gotta listen. And so he is not necessarily doing his part to actually like listen to what she's trying to communicate to him. And that's an important part of being able to have a line of communication, is like hearing what they're saying and not just brushing off like, oh, you'll learn to live with that. You'll learn to yada, yada, you know. There might be some other reasons why, albeit unexpected reasons, why he's keeping the beard. Okay. That's not being properly communicated.
Well, maybe we should get to the update then, because I'm curious.
Do you have any theories about it's a weird twist.
Maybe he has gotten like a breakout or something and he's trying to hide that. I don't know.
So, update.
All right, here we go.
The original post was in June of 2016. This is a long time ago. I think I forgot to establish the year. So this is in September of that same year. So a few months later.
Okay.
So my post from a few months ago didn't get a lot of attention, but I wanted to post an update anyway. Basically, my boyfriend grew a disgusting beard that he didn't take care of, and food got caught in it all the time. It was seriously affecting our sex life, but he kept telling me I would learn to love his beard one day. Also, all our families and friends said the beard was great, which was super weird because it wasn't. So I did what some people suggested and told him I couldn't bring myself to have sex with him unless he starts grooming his beard because I'm so disgusted by it. He kind of laughed it off, but after a week, I guess he realized I was serious. So one day we met for dinner after work and he got there clean shaven and with a bouquet of roses.
Oh.
During dinner, he asked me if I honestly didn't remember. I had no idea what he was talking about. That's when he told me that 6 or 7 years ago, when we celebrated Christmas with my family and my grandfather was asking when the two of us would finally get married, my boyfriend said we would get married when his beard was as long as my grandfather's, who has somewhat of a Santa Claus beard.
Oh my gosh.
For a few months after the incident, it was like a running joke between the two of us. Whenever he didn't shave for a few days, I told him to watch out or he would have to marry me. Apparently that was when he decided he would grow out his beard before proposing.
Oh.
Only he thought it would be too obvious and I would know what was coming, and I completely forgot about the whole situation. And now I feel kind of bad about forgetting the whole joke between us.
Oh.
He said when I told him the beard was disgusting, he thought I was just joking around because I wanted to know if he would really go through with growing out grandfather style. Our friends and families were all in on it, and that's why they kept saying the beard was great. So long story short, the beard is gone and we are engaged. I guess this might seem a bit childish to a lot of people, but it made my grandfather happy, and I think the original idea was kind of sweet, even though the beard wasn't.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can definitely say I did not expect that ending at all.
So one thing I'll say quick, because obviously there's a lot of cute things here, but this is also what a lot of the comments are saying as well. Dude, that wasn't the problem. He came in like just showed up clean shaven. The problem is that he needed to groom the beard or like take some because food was getting in it. So it's like on one hand you did here, but then also like, dude, you can keep the beard and you can stick to the plan, but just groom it. You didn't have to abandon the operation.
That's really funny.
It would be the cutest story ever if it wasn't involving a disgusting beard in terms of like the food and stuff getting into it. Because that was at the root of the issue is that it's the grooming and keeping it clean. Like he could still, again, he could have cleaned it out and just stuck with the original plan, but it's still cute, you know, and like eventually did communicate what was going on and stuff.
Yeah. I'm glad it all worked out and that they're all happy and engaged now. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree with you though. I think also listening a little more, not just brushing it off during the process, probably would have helped a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably he wouldn't have had to shave it off like you said. So.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's okay to like, if you think someone's joking, be like, is this clear? Are you joking or are you serious? Because sometimes we get that.
Sometimes
like,
it's good to check in.
To be like, hey, are you joking or are you serious right now? Because I feel like that happens in a lot of relationships where one person's like trying to bring up something that's kind of serious or important to them, but like for whatever reason, the other's perceiving it as a joke or something. And so like it's okay to every once in a while like check in like, hey, wait, are you joking or are you being serious?
Yeah. And on the other side too, if you feel like you're not being heard, to express that as well. If OP is thinking he's just kind of brushing me off and not taking me seriously, to be upfront enough to say, hey, it's actually really bothering me. Like, why are you just brushing this off? If it's really bothering me and it's kind of giving me the ick when I'm around you, seeing the food in the beard, why are you just laughing me off? It's bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to also be upfront enough, and when you're in a relationship or a friendship in that matter, if there's something that's bothering you in a friendship or in a family, literally any relationship ever, I think it's important to be upfront when things are bothering you, and if someone's brushing it off, to call them on it and be not rude or mean about it, but to call them on it so that they're aware that it's bothering you. Because in this situation, it's clear that for a while, he thought she was joking. So on both sides, it's good to check in. Communication.
Yes, communicate and listen.
Yeah.
All right, ready for our next story?
Let's go.
Now we're moving on to a married couple.
Okay.
And this one is a ride.
Oh,
I'm going to
boy.
preface this as this is an emotional journey, this one.
Okay.
But again, it comes... Well, actually, this one specifically comes from Best of Redditor updates. So actually not Best of Positive updates. But it still comes from...
There's positive ones on there.
It's positive by the end, okay? But it is going to be a heavy subject.
Okay.
The story originally came from relationships.
Okay.
And the title is, How Do I, 30 male, come back from yelling at my pregnant wife, 26 female?
No.
See, again, like it's a journey. Keep in mind the theme of communication, but this is one of the ones where it's a little more complicated than that, but communication is still, I'd say, the core key here. but this was posted not long ago, beginning of July of 2024, so this year. I have been with my wife 4 years. I have a 5-year-old from a previous relationship. My 5-year-old, Elle, is from my first long-term relationship during college. We split shortly after birth as my then partner admitted to being unfaithful and not being ready to start a family. My daughter loves my wife. They are inseparable. My ex does not have much to do with my daughter or myself except cause the occasional drama. She did not want any custody or visitation time, so my wife is her mother for all intents and purposes. My wife is almost 8 months pregnant. She has shut me out of the entire pregnancy but refuses to admit anything is wrong. I feel completely ignored and hurt. When we first learned she was pregnant, she told me while I was making breakfast. Of course, I was elated. However, since it was an unplanned pregnancy, I asked how she was feeling at first. She began smiling and crying about how excited she is. I picked her up, gave her a million kisses, and told her I was so excited to have a baby too, and what a wonderful mother she would be. All good, right? She went all out to announce to everyone else. Balloons and boxes, t-shirts, and best big sister mugs. I assume the casual announcement with me is because she wanted my feelings on growing our family before celebrating. However, when her sister asked about how I liked my box, my wife quickly said, "He didn't get one. This isn't his first rodeo." It was like pulling teeth to get her to let me go to the ultrasound appointments. She didn't want me to miss work, didn't want to interrupt Elle's routine, excuse after excuse. When it came to listening to the heartbeat, my wife instantly started crying happy tears. The tech was telling her how strong the heartbeat was, how precious our little one was, etc. I was feeling a bit emotional and cleared my throat to prevent crying. The tech said, "Aw, Dad, isn't that sound beautiful?" My wife immediately said, "This isn't his first child. It's not that special for him." I immediately said, "This is one of the most important moments of my life. I can't think of anything more special." The atmosphere was clearly awkward after. Another thing that bothered me, I heard Elle and my wife's mom laughing in the living area. I was in the kitchen making dinner. When I walked in and asked what the fuss was about, Elle was touching my wife's stomach and was laughing with excitement that the baby was moving and it would be so cute. My wife let my daughter and mother-in-law feel the baby move before me. I was hurt but simply said how happy I was. Later that night, my wife was poking her belly and laughing. I asked her to feel as well and she said, "You felt Elle move as a baby. What can be better than that? She was the cutest baby ever." She has felt pretty poorly throughout her pregnancy but refuses to let me help her. If I bring her a snack and drink, she offers it to our daughter. If I try and rub her feet or legs, she asks me to play with our daughter so she doesn't feel like she's being replaced or ignored. I simply do not ignore my daughter. We have bonding time, I'm an active parent, but I want to love my wife. She can hardly eat, but when I asked her what I can prepare for her, it's whatever Elle wants. We went to the zoo with Elle, and my wife started feeling bad. She had cramps and was considering going to the hospital, severe nausea and dizziness. I carried her to a bench nearby, and she began to cry, saying she can't even stand up. I told her to let me call an ambulance or I'll carry you to the car and drive you. She said she didn't want to ruin Elle's trip and we didn't even make it to the aviary, Elle's favorite part. I said I wasn't leaving when she asked me to continue to go through the zoo with Elle. We sat for a while until her dad showed up. She didn't even tell me he was coming and took her to the doctor. I was shocked and followed them with Elle. When we arrived, Elle was upset about missing the aviary and pouting. At that point, the health of my wife and unborn child were my concern. I really didn't care Elle was upset. My wife was irate that I made Elle miss out. Another example, we were watching Elle play in a local kids sport. I asked her, "Do you think our kid will be athletic, artistic, enjoy science or math?" She said, "This is Elle's moment. We shouldn't make it about someone who isn't even here." Elle was on the field. We were sitting in the stands. We had both waved to her, held up a sign for her, everything. I just want to talk about our baby. When her bump was really showing, she would always show it off to anyone who wanted to look. Her family, friends, siblings, etc. "Do you want to see my bump? I'm huge, so excited. I can't believe it's only X more weeks." They all touch her bump, talk to it, etc. Her parents come and reads or tells back in the day stories. They go to the beach? 1,000 bump pictures posted on her friends' social media accounts. If we go out together, she wears the loosest clothes so I don't see it. I'll even see her pull her shirt down when she sees me come into the room. She sat on me the other day after being playful in bed. Her bump was right in my face. I ran my hands up it and said, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You're already a great mom to Elle. I can't wait to see you as our family grows." This was one of the first times I was really able to feel her bump, so I rested my hand there and said, "I love you so much already. I'm so excited to meet you. I hope you have your mom's eyes." She moved off of me and said, "I know ex-partner had a bigger bump than me. I bet it was fun seeing Elle move all the time. You don't have to act like you care. I know you've done this before." I said, "I don't think about it that way. Elle is special, but this is a completely new and different special because it was with her, and our baby was someone completely new and special. She began to leave the room and I could see her shoulders shake from crying. I'm 100% positive she's not cheating, nor has she ever. I just cannot wrap my head around why she doesn't want me to be happy about this. The rest of the time is completely normal as long as I don't mention the baby. She's affectionate, initiates intimacy, brags about what a good husband I am, and how great I've made this pregnancy. We plan for our future, we have date nights, everything else. Unfortunately, we had a fight where I snapped. I had a break between clients at work, so I went to a local baby store and got a lot of things off of her list and Pinterest board. I came home and surprised her with flowers, a prenatal massage certificate, and her favorite food, as well as the baby items. She seemed very grateful, but when I came home, the items were no longer there. She said she returned it to buy Elle stuff, as she was going to feel left out. I lost it. I cried for the first time in our marriage, and yelled that having a child with her was the worst mistake I ever made, that at least my deadbeat ex at least gave me the chance to know my unborn child, that I didn't care about the baby because she wouldn't even let me bond with it. I do care, I have since she told me, that I hoped she was as miserable as she made me, and that she better be prepared for a custody dispute.
Oof.
She simply said, I know you don't care about the baby, but I'll die before you take my baby from me. What? I have begged her to let me interact with our baby. I asked her if her therapist had any insight onto why she was being like this. She said no, that she isn't doing anything. I told her what I said above, and she said I had those experiences already, so it shouldn't matter. I asked her if the baby was mine. I know it is. I was just being mean. She threw her phone at me and said, yes, go through it. I'll do a paternity test, whatever you need. I just called her parents and asked them to go to our house as we were having a disagreement and went to a hotel. I do not want to stress her out or our unborn child, and I really want to repair this, but I truly don't know how. I'm staying at an Airbnb for now until we can figure this out, but I truly don't know what to do. I miss her like crazy, and I can't even begin to understand why she wants to behave this way. I have apologized for what I said, but I can't take back what I said, and I worry about when our baby is born, if she will even want to be a family with me, or let me have anything to do with our baby. I spoke with a mutual friend who says she is very distraught and says she can't be a single mom, loves me, but her actions prove the opposite time and time again, even when I beg for a change. So that's the story initially.
Oof, you're right. That is really heavy.
Yeah, that's complicated. It's like I feel like, again, at the core of this is communication, but that's when it's like, man, where do you even begin? That's so tough because he has expressed concerns, but on her end, something's just not clicking. Something's not getting through. And I have the foresight that I've read the rest of the updates, so I kind of know what the issue is, but I'm curious what your thoughts are without knowing what's coming next. I know when I was reading this, I was stressed reading this. So I apologize to our listeners for, this is probably not the most positive listen right now for this part of the story. I swear it's going to come back around. This is the show for positive stuff, but yeah, it's emotionally a heavy one, but I think it's important to talk through these issues because there's some serious issues going on here. This isn't a silly oh, I thought it'd be funny to grow up my beard as an inside joke. This is serious, heavy, emotional stuff going on both sides. This
is just completely going off my own thoughts from this. As we were listening, I feel like I got more and more perplexed and more confused.
Right. You were next to me while I was reading the story, and I feel like I looked stressed while I was reading it.
It's interesting. So my first thought that crossed my mind is perhaps she or someone she knows growing up had an experience where the father figure had a child from a previous marriage and kind of left them in the dust and then kind of only fixated on the new child with the new wife. And maybe she has an intense fear of that happening and doesn't want that to happen with their kid. And so she's completely overcompensating and trying to make sure that doesn't happen and going too far in the other direction of not putting any importance on this child. There's also the trope of the evil stepmother in the new marriage of kind of neglecting the child from the previous marriage, which a lot of times, 99% of the time, I'm sure does not actually happen. But there's a lot of, fairy tales like Cinderella, for example, where that is the case. I feel like there's a lot of overcompensating happening here for some emotion, probably fear, if I had to guess, based on the way she's responding. Because it said that she was initially seemed happy and grateful for him buying the things off of her registry. that she had wanted, but then later found out that she returned them, which makes me think that she almost like double thought herself and was like, this is great. Wait, no, actually, this might make Elle feel left out. Maybe I should go the other direction with this. The point that he made about not feeling like he's able to bond with his child that hasn't been born yet, I think had he said that in not a heated moment and more of a just conversation before that point, I think the conversation would have went differently. Obviously, hindsight is 2020.
Especially when emotions are involved. He clearly, and based on his reaction, how he wrote it, that was an irrational thought. It wasn't. He was just really hurt, and unfortunately, emotions took over there.
With the divorce talk and stuff, yeah. It's just one of those things of if you're having things pile up and pile up and pile up in your mind, you're more likely to have it burst out in ways that you didn't intend. Versus if he had been a little more clear on why it was bothering him that she was doing these things, the not letting him see her bump, not letting him feel the kicks first, making excuses for him not to go to the ultrasound appointments. Had he been able to actually break that down and have that conversation with her before they piled up to that point where it burst out, I think that that conversation may have gone a little differently and may have been a little more positive from the get-go. But again, hindsight's 2020. We're human. We do let things pile up. We do sometimes also try to rationalize with ourselves like, oh, it's not that bad. You know, it's fine. It's not a big deal. When clearly it is. I mean, he gave a laundry list of all these things that have been piling up. So clearly it is.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, again, if the story is to be believed, he's the one telling the story, that he's been trying to communicate and trying to say, hey, like as things happen.
Yeah, like I want to be a part of these.
Yeah. No, this is special to me. Like this is a whole unique experience. This is like one of the most important moments of my life, you know? And she just keeps being dismissive. I feel like, obviously, like the part where he snaps is the part where it's like, okay, dude, like that, don't do that. But also, like, we're human. Like,
we do snap,
emotions build up. Like, let's not pretend like we never snapped at each other.
Exactly.
You know, things happen. But she's clearly not communicating something.
Yeah,
like,
there's clearly something that's under the surface.
And it's definitely more than just... Because my initial thought was, again, that she was like just trying to overcompensate with the whole Elle situation, trying to, you know, make sure she's feeling not being forgotten or feel like she's going to get shooed away or something, you know, like she's just as important, if not more important. But then like that carries on to when Elle's not even around and stuff, like, and him just trying to like feel her bump, like that's a whole separate issue, I feel.
That's why it makes me think
again,
that she's more afraid of him not being there for Elle after the fact and leaving Elle in the dust. And that, to me, that's how that reads, but I could be completely wrong. So I'm very curious what the update is.
Yeah. So first off, a lot of the comments, at least the ones that I can see here, are like basically urging couples therapy.
Yeah.
Like, which honestly, with the lack of real professional advice people to offer, I would probably suggest couples therapy.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, you gotta talk to a professional.
Because then you can get both sides too. Because that's the benefit of going to a couples therapy, is that the therapist gets to hear both sides of the story. Because we're limited to the one perspective in the Reddit post, versus there they can both share their perspectives. Because there may be details that are being left out that maybe she has expressed that maybe he's left out. You never know.
One comment I'll read here that, and it seems like OP responds to a lot of the comments. This comment's read, don't be hard on yourself. You couldn't have known it would escalate to this, but do take action now so you both can fix this. You absolutely can. Your love for each other is so plain to read. I'm certain you can get this back on track and start enjoying this together. I really don't know why she could be shutting you out, other than protecting herself by telling herself it's not special to you because that's what she fears. But it sounds like clinical anxiety, because she has no reason to fear that until the argument. You've done everything you could to reassure her. I so hope this works out for you all. To which OP responded back, I love her dearly. It hurts to see the comments and messages about her or I being horrible. We are both making mistakes. My comment's more of a mistake than anything she has ever done. But I do love her, and I don't want to think that she has a master plot to keep my baby away. This change was like night or day for me. She always talked about the future and how great of a sister Elle would be.
I like that comment, him defending her, because I think that's really important too, because arguments happen, and just because this breakdown in communication is happening and they're having disagreements, they're not seeing eye to eye on this situation, and there's clearly something bigger at play here that we're not aware of and that he's not aware of, that doesn't mean that either of them is the villain. I think people are very quick to paint one person as the villain when a lot of times it's more complicated than that. And no one's the villain. It's just either a breakdown in communication or it's something bigger at play, like anxiety or something like that, that can actually cause reactions and things that aren't necessarily what we would expect.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what makes it kind of an emotional journey as well, because it feels like a lot of Reddit stories out there, at least in the shows that we listen to, like Two Hot Takes or Smosh Reddit stories, is where it's like, okay, well, clearly they're just being crazy. You're like, okay, clearly they hate each other or something. But no, they're just reading the story. It's like, oh man, like what's going on here? Like it seems like you guys have a good thing, but like there's just something. Mm-hmm. It's not, so it's big, but it's not like holistically big. Like the whole relationship's in jeopardy. It's just, there's a big issue that's blocking the road right now. That's just getting in the way. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. But that being said, we have an update.
All right, let's go.
28 days later. It's been about a month since I posted. This is a bit long because so many kind Redditors reached out and gave me advice and shared their experiences and asked for an update. After I posted and stewed for a little while and had a couple of drinks, I called my father-in-law. He and my wife are very close and I respect his opinion. He has been married for a very long time and seems to have a happy marriage and has good relationships all around with his family. I didn't specify what issues we were having, but he was staying over at my house while I was staying in an Airbnb, so it was no secret we were having problems. He has more of a traditional marriage and at some point asked what I had to lose by putting pressure on her to talk. I said I feared I'd push her away more, and he pretty much told me that I was living in a separate house than my pregnant wife, freaking out about a potential divorce. What did I have to lose?
Yeah.
He advised me to be a man and come back to my house and lay it on the line. I told him I'd be coming over the next day. They asked if they could take Elle to buy some sparklers for the upcoming holiday and spend the night at their house. I agreed, and when I went to my house the next day, I came in with flowers and stuff to make dinner. My wife asked what I was doing there, to which I replied I lived there and would like to sit down and talk. I gave a long apology for my actions and words. When I finished, I said it was her turn to tell me what was going on. She tried to claim nothing, that everything was okay. After a while, I said my heart is broken, that we have been through some tough things together, fought for each other, and now you sit here and lie to my face. We both sat there and she cried for about 30 minutes until eventually she said she felt like our relationship would end if she was honest. I said I would hear her out no matter what. She admitted it was hard that this would be her first kid and not mine. She didn't think it would bother her, and it didn't until she was pregnant, that she laid in bed at night thinking if my ex would have wanted to raise Elle, we would still be a family together and she wouldn't matter. She expressed that seeing me emotional about our baby, or wanting to touch her bump, or treat her made her think of me and my ex and how I had already did all of the things she was excited to do with me. Near the beginning of her pregnancy, she had told a close friend that she couldn't wait to have a baby with her soulmate, and her friend replied that she didn't think soulmates had other children or baby mamas, that it was two people meant only for each other.
Yikes.
Yeah, that was the comment that made me upset when I was reading it at the time.
Yeah. Oof.
She was very upset and asked if I thought we were soulmates like she did. She described herself and our unborn child as my sloppy seconds family, that no one grew up dreaming of having kids by multiple different people, that she was just the substitute when the family I wanted didn't work out. She also shared she had found some old images of my ex on social media and could not stop comparing her pregnant body. She feared the baby wouldn't be an equal to Elle in my eyes. It worried her when I would ask what she thought the baby would be like, that what if the baby was disabled, or didn't like to do things we enjoyed as a family, or the baby and Elle didn't like each other. She said at one point she found herself wishing I never had Elle, so she wouldn't have to worry as much. But that is when she knew she really had to put in the extra effort to maintain a relationship with Elle. She feared that between work and Elle, I wouldn't have time and wouldn't bond with the baby like in articles she read online, where fathers didn't bond with their children until they were able to do things with the family. When I did try and bond with the baby, she worried the baby wouldn't live up to Elle. I have never been shy about saying how much being a father means to me, and how raising Elle has been the highlight of my life, along with marrying my wife and now having our child together. She said it was initially what made her confident in marrying me and excited to have a big family with me, but now constantly wondered if her pregnancy and this baby would be a highlight or a burden for me, because the stress is the same but the newness wasn't, and then what if a newborn and then toddler wouldn't be as interesting to me as Elle, who is capable of doing activities. She showed me a million articles of different men explaining they didn't bond with their children until 4+ years old. She also showed me the videos where people say things they did with their first kid and then get more relaxed as they have more children. She said it freaked her out because it was clear people stopped caring the more children they had. She said that there were times she felt she was ruining our family and coming between me and Elle. For example, at the zoo, she said she cried on the way to the hospital. She was afraid Elle would hate her and resent the baby for cutting our zoo time short, and that I would be upset that I was spending my time off work at the hospital instead of doing the activities we planned with Elle. While I work, Elle and my wife spend a lot of time out of the house, library, local parks, etc. One of their favorite activities is biking together, and we bike together on weekends as well. We have lots of local trails, but due to her pregnancy, she has not been able to. We've been doing more indoor activities. My wife said that when I'm at work, Elle kept saying she hated her because she didn't get to go on her new bike as often anymore. I said I would discuss it with her because that is unacceptable. My wife asked me not to since there would be so many changes soon for Elle, and it hurt her because she missed biking together as well. A couple of months ago, my wife asked me and Elle if we wanted to read stories together. Elle chose the first story I read, and my wife chose the second, her favorite childhood story, for me to read to the baby, and Elle since it helps promote brain activity and help with bonding. After that, I read another book of Elle's choosing. While I was at work the next day, Elle ripped the pages out of the book my wife chose. She said she was going to tell me, but her friend, same friend who says we aren't soulmates, said I would think she was making it up and that it seemed to her she was trying to become between me and Elle. I asked her why she didn't tell me any of this, and she explained that she didn't feel comfortable telling me because her thoughts didn't even make sense to her. She wanted me to spend time with Elle so she didn't feel left out or jealous, and when I did, she felt upset I was spending more time with her. She loves Elle but wishes we had our first kid together. She wants me around but also feels upset and guilty when I give her, our unborn baby, attention. She said she feared that I would think she was trying to come between me and Elle when she wasn't. By the time I realized something was truly wrong and started to ask what was wrong, if she needed therapy, etc., she said she realized she was acting poorly but didn't want to admit to herself that she missed out on a lot with me and doubled down as it was hard to face that she made her fears reality by pushing me away and not letting me care, and that she couldn't start over, that her first pregnancy was a somewhat bad experience because of her own actions. At this point, I realized how terrible I'd been. I apologized for making her feel like she couldn't come to me about anything. She said when she researched her feelings, she found a bunch of forums where people were calling the poster evil for their feelings about their stepchild, and feared I would feel the same. She said if I had told her I felt about Elle the way she felt about Elle, that it would make her angry and upset, so she couldn't see how I wouldn't be. We both cried for a long time. I tried to reassure her. I told her how much I loved her, how excited I was, that she was the family of my choosing and my soulmate, that the universe knew that Elle and I needed her, which is why circumstances allowed us to be a family. She apologized for the way she treated me and said she wanted to make it right. She said she had wanted to apologize when I was beginning to have my meltdown, but was surprised when I yelled and realized she might have messed up beyond repair to get that reaction from me. We continued to cry for a long time, and she asked if I wanted to feel the baby. Of course I said yes, and we cried even more. It turned out to be a great evening. I made us dinner and we laughed about how I was so stressed I went to Reddit for advice. She wanted to read the post and cried again when she did. I reassured her we could move past this, and she said she felt less horrible as she read some of the comments from women in her shoes. It was a bit awkward the first week, after so many months of tension. I knew things were turning around when she woke up by whispering, "Baby wants blueberry pancakes," that Saturday. I don't think I've ever prepared pancakes so fast. I couldn't keep the smile off my face. We ended up going to a pool party a few days later, and she let me choose her swimsuit, a big deal for someone who only wore baggy clothes around me. We took family pictures, and the universe is clearly on my side, because on the way home she asked me to feel her belly and our baby was hiccuping, something I had never felt before, and it was a first we could share together. She has even let me help her when she is sick without making an excuse about Elle. I've learned that when she comes and puts her back to me and lifts her arm, that it is my cue to lift her belly up. I now spend a lot of time rubbing and talking to her belly and rubbing her feet, legs, back, shoulders, hips, haha. She's sore everywhere at this point. The first 500 times it made me cry. It has been such a relief to be involved. I never thought being tasked with acquiring the most random food items at 2 a.m. would be a great time for me, but it is. It still sucks that I missed out on a lot. I think it sucks for her too. She gets emotional and says a weight has been lifted off her and things are so much easier, and she is upset that she didn't talk to me sooner. I have been working to fix some of my wife's guilt. I realized there was a lot of simple fixes. For example, I was able to go to my local bike shop and get a pull-behind trailer. Now I pull her in that, and she can use a small fan and ice packs, and Elle can ride her bike. I have taken off work so I can spend more time with them both. We are all in therapy, and thankfully Elle's therapist is continuing to say she is securely attached to both of us, enjoys the time we spend together, is coping very well. Some of her behavior was due to another situation which we have resolved, and she is excited to be a big sister. My wife was terrified that maybe she could sense her attitude shift, but her therapist says that she only has one complaint about my wife, that she forgot her candy one time and then it took 32 whole minutes for the store to deliver it.
Oh my gosh.
My wife is in therapy working to overcome the negative feelings she has. That is pretty much where we are now. We are getting very close to baby time and working hard to finish preparing. My wife still needs reassurance. There are a lot of times she brings up my ex, and I found bringing up our first helps. For example, she'll ask about certain things about how it was for me. I'll say I don't want to talk about that and steer the conversation to us. Do you remember our first house? First vacation? First kiss? Date? Remember that time? Blah, blah, blah. It made me fall more in love with you. Do you remember when you and Elle made me blah, blah, blah? That is still one of my prized possessions. It upsets me that my wife suffered for so long. I believe saying it out loud took a lot of power away from her feelings. I think most people know how badly it feels when you have thoughts that don't feel like your own, when you're going through a mentally taxing time. I really should have stood up for our relationship and her mental health way sooner. I accepted her brushing me off for far too long when I should have realized she needed help. I appreciate everyone who reached out or offered advice. I posted this in detail with my wife's permission. She hopes that it helps someone out that are struggling with the same feelings she felt.
Well, you were right. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, my first reaction, I apologize, is a very negative reaction. That is the worst friend. That is the worst. She is the villain of the story. Where you're like, why make that kind of comment? That's so unnecessarily mean and hurtful. Like, oh gosh. And it happened twice.
Yeah.
But anyways, moving on from that, back to the emotionally complex journey we just went on.
The line that he said, it seemed like a load was taken off of her by being able to take the power away from those feelings by voicing them and actually saying them out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that is so important in any relationship. Again, friendship, family, romantic relationship, no matter what it is. We all have feelings and thoughts that to ourselves may feel irrational, or we may try to push down and say, that's stupid, or that's just my own issue I need to work through, or whatever. But by voicing it, you do take away its power, I feel like. And so if there are issues that you're feeling that feel like they're driving a wedge in a relationship, no matter what it is, I think just by voicing it, and you can phrase it in a way that's, I'm feeling this way, and I admit that I think it's an irrational thought or an irrational fear or whatever it may be, and just be honest about it and how it's affecting you. It lays it all out on the table so you can have an honest conversation, because by having those things pile up, if they're below the surface and the other person is not a mind reader, they don't know where you're coming from. And sometimes it's almost like when you have an illness, you might not know what the illness is, but you see the symptoms. Mm-hmm. So if you're seeing the symptoms and you don't know what's causing it, how can you help it? How can you fix it?
Right.
And so by laying it all out on the table like they did, they were able to bounce back from this. And there was so much going on. It wasn't just one fear. It was many fears compounding. So by getting that all out on the table, he's able to see the source, the root of the issue, not just the weeds above that are causing issues, but actually able to identify what the root is, so that going forward, he can identify, oh, she's doing this or feeling this way because of that root. And then being able to go at it from that way, and not necessarily coming at it then with anger, but more understanding, so that they can keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. But he never would have been able to identify the roots if she
didn't actually state them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it became clear from reading her telling of the story that the longer you push off the communication of those fears, the harder it becomes, because now it's been so long and like, I've ruined this. Like, I can't accept the fact that I've ruined this. Those fears become worse and worse. She tries to act against those fears, but instead kind of makes those fears more of a reality. It's like the saying pulled from Kung Fu Panda of like, which I love this quote though, even though it's from an animated movie, is one often meets their destiny on the road they take to avoid it. Rather than just talking through it. It's not quite so simple as, oh, just communicate. But like at the core of it, you gotta start a conversation and acknowledge that there's a problem. There's something, even if you don't fully grasp what it is, in this case, it sounds like she did, you got to be willing to talk about it. And good on him to be able to take what she's saying, because it'd be so easy. I don't know if I could respond it as well as he did in terms of like not spiraling of like, wait, so you don't like Elle? You wish Elle wasn't around? Like,
Right.
especially when emotions are high, I could see that's very easy to accidentally, not rationally, but you could spiral down that thought, which would speak to her fear directly, you know? But I feel like that's, honestly, that wouldn't be not understandable of a response. Again, I'm not saying that's the right response, and good on him, he didn't have that response. He was able to speak to her more rationally and not take an emotional response to that. That's huge. That's so hard, especially given the fight they had previously where he did snap and stuff. So the fact that he was able to, maybe, again, it wasn't great necessarily situation, but sometimes cooler heads do prevail, and being able to take that moment to separate, reflect, I guess get advice from Reddit, but just to breathe, get that space, and then come back at it with a new mindset.
Taking that breath.
And ultimately, you know, the root of the issue was that she was not communicating.
Well, it sounds like she was in denial a little bit too.
Because there was only so much he could do without her being able to communicate what the problems were. He can only do so much. Again, he shouldn't have snapped. But even with all of that, he's still like trying to, okay, here's what I can do to help alleviate the situation. Like he's still, because you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. And so it's just great to see him doing what he is observing he can do in the situation.
Agreed.
And the rest is up to her then, on her side of things.
Yeah, for sure.
One more point I want to focus on for a moment, because I know it's something that I feel like we can relate to. I'm sure many other couples can as well. There's a part where she talks about how when she's still in her denial, that she says something along the lines of that she's afraid that she'll ruin their marriage or their relationship if she's honest. And the truth is, like, you can't have a real relationship if you're not being honest. And if you're really that scared that it's going to break the relationship, well, then you're living a lie. And then if that is going to break the relationship, then the relationship isn't strong enough to handle it, but it needs to be able to. Otherwise, again, it's just going to, if you're not honest, it's just going to, like, a sickness spread and make it infinitely worse. You need to be honest. And I say I relate because I feel like you and I have had, when we've had important arguments or emotions we've had to talk through, we've one of us or both of us at some point has said something along those lines. Like, we're just so scared to be honest about our feelings. We're so, I don't know if just because of the way they've warped in our heads of like, oh, this could mean this, and they might take this way, and like that's gonna break, that's gonna ruin us. And I'm almost certain that we've said that to each other at one point. But like, here we are, like we've talked through those problems. So it's just kind of a lie we tell ourselves that like, well, if I'm honest, it's gonna ruin things. Like, you need to be honest with your relationships, especially with romantic ones when you are going to raise a child together.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be honest with each other, no matter how hard it is. Now, that being said, don't be like, well, I'm just brutally honest. Like, don't take that mentality of like as an excuse to be mean to somebody, but like being honest about how you're feeling and then finding the right way to communicate it. Because again, like where I feel like OP lost his way was like all of his feelings were justified. Everything he was doing at least seemed right, until he then snapped, and then like he did not communicate his feelings in the right way in that moment. Again, understandably, emotions built up, but again, how you communicate it can be everything. I hope those stories were good. That was my first time bringing stories, and the third one was a real heavy emotional one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing the stories. I had an interesting conversation with you, talking over everything. Well, let's end on a little bit of an upbeat, positive, lighthearted note. This news story comes from apnews.com, and it is titled "High School President Writes Notes Thanking Fellow Seniors, 180 of them."
That's a couple.
Just a couple. So the class president in a school in Massachusetts gave a commencement speech, and during that commencement speech, he told all of the students that they had a personally written note taped underneath their chair from him, and that he wanted them to take the time to read them. So he had spent 10 hours writing personalized thank you cards to all of the classmates. To quote the article, class president Mason said, "I just wrote anything from farewell messages to little memories that I had with whoever I was writing to, or maybe if it was a close friend, a longer message to them. Anything that I could think of about the person I wanted to say about them before we graduated and went our separate ways." Mason said that a lot of the graduates afterwards came up to him and thanked him for the messages that he wrote them, and that a lot of the parents of those students also sent him nice messages through social media. So I thought that was incredibly wholesome. And it's a good example, I feel like, of communicating kind things to people that maybe they might not hear on the daily basis, because it sounds like there were a lot of nice things that this student wrote to them that even the parents of these students felt the need to say, like, wow, that was really nice. Thank you. Because the little things we say to people that are kind can really make a huge impact. And they might not know that you had that memory with them, or that you thought that about them, that positive thing. And so by communicating that to them, that could really make a really huge impact on somebody in a way that you might not expect. And so the fact that this 18-year-old kid did that for 180 students in his school is really, really cool.
That's super nice. And, there might be some out there that are like, whatever, that might brush it off. But, like, for those that it does impact, that can mean the world to them. That could stick with them forever, potentially.
If you want to read the whole article, as always, I will post it in the description below. So feel free to check that out. It's a very cute story. With that, we will end our podcast for today. Thank you so much for finding all those great stories, Wyatt. It was a very interesting episode. So.
Yeah, hopefully you'll allow me to try again in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you want to bring stories on, I am all ears. I love discussing stuff. So for sure. As I said last week, we now have a subreddit. So feel free to follow that. It is Uplift Positive Stories on Reddit. Feel free to join. If you want to share positive stories and from your own life or other people that you know, or positive news stories that you find to that thread, we would love that. We'd love to see it. And we may end up even sharing it on a future podcast episode. You can also email them to us at upliftingpositivestories@gmail.com or join our Facebook group. So lots of ways to share positive stories. Again, we'd love to have them. We hope you'll join us next Wednesday for our next episode, and we hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week.
And stay positive.